Hi there, I'm Isanali Shaw, and you're watching me on your YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, and I'm still learning about it. The topic is expanding universe and the formation and history of seafloor and oceans. And I know you're wondering if why that is a completely different topic to the series. And you're right, but there are two reasons for it. First, it is to break the monotony of the show, of the live series, and second is I really am interested because it really triggered me. And when we are going to discuss it in detail, and you are going to find out many interesting details about the Earth and how it differs and from the mainstream geological theories and the information industry. And before wasting, and my guest is Edward Konowicz. He has joined us from Virginia, United States.
Yeah, hi
Hi, Ed.
everybody.
How are you
Um,
doing?
Pretty good. This is in the evening here, but in the early morning in Pakistan. So good morning,
Yes,
everybody
yes.
over there.
Mhm,
I think this is an interesting topic. I did not develop this topic. I
mhm,
stumbled onto it about 5 or 10 years ago. And
uh-huh,
Neil Adams did a really good video on
mhm,
YouTube on it that the
mhm,
earth is growing.
mhm,
And I like to explain how and why. It's a
mhm,
theory. I think it's one of the best theories we have today. And
mhm.
people
And
say,
when you asked me, when you sent me the link, I thought about the same thing. And when I watched the video, it was only a short clip of 3 minutes, but it really triggered my interest that this is something new. That even though it is completely different to my field and your field, but it really the links you send me, and it completely defies the mainstream information industry and the knowledge that we see it today. Even I am 31 years old, and I'm listening and reading about it for the very first time.
yeah, a lot of people haven't been exposed to it. The
Mhm,
oceans on Earth are unusual because
mhm,
at Mars we have the remains of what looks like seas, which is
mhm,
at one time Mars had large, almost oceans. We call them seas. That's
mhm,
according to NASA. That's not my
mhm,
thinking.
mhm,
What I'm going to be referring to is what other scientists have found. And because what they found was different
mhm,
and what we call the narrative, it's not in the public eye. That
mhm,
the Earth may be being watered from space.
mhm,
And the example of this is Europa, which is a moon of
mhm,
Jupiter, is covered with
mhm,
ice, which is
mhm,
water is not rare. That's even supposedly comets. I don't totally agree, but we're taught that comets are made out of water. And
mhm.
NASA themselves say, this is NASA, not me. This is the
Okay.
U.S. National, Administration of what of space,
Next.
the space program. They say about
Yes.
10,000 comets
Mhm,
a day, the size of a house,
mhm.
which is a comet is water size of a house, hits the Earth, which is the Earth is getting water from outer space.
How many comets? Hit
10,000
10,000 comets.
a day,
What's the size? What's the size?
about the size of a house.
Ah, and they hit
Now
the
that
Earth every day.
yeah, now that's going to be disputed, but
Mhm,
it has been said by some scientists because it's upsetting the
mhm,
scientific world to see a planet as growing,
mhm.
which is
So,
it's an ongoing process.
it,
In my own
it,
theory,
it,
this is
so it,
my
it,
theory.
it, now it suggests that the rising sea level is not caused by the okay, it is also caused by the to some extent by the melting glaciers, but it is also caused by they're also contributing a major part the comets. It's another theory, it's another way of thinking.
Yes, well, see, the way it works out
Mm-hmm.
is the Antarctica is mostly a frozen desert. There's not much
Mm-hmm.
snowfall in Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of snowfall in the North Arctic around the North Pole. In fact, it's not uncommon for there to be no North Pole for
Mm-hmm.
the ice around the North Pole to melt in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So the ice and snow may be coming from outer space. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason the oceans have not risen as much as we thought, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to explain this, but is you have tectonic plates. And this,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of tectonic plates that the different continents are on floating
Mm-hmm.
land masses that move. And this is what supposedly causes
Mm-hmm.
earthquakes,
Mm-hmm.
specifically in the Pacific. You know,
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand just had three major earthquakes, a 7.3, a 7.4, and an 8.1, and it's on the edge of the Pacific plate expansion. But just like
Japan
some
also
plates
Japan also
expand to
gets
move,
mhm. Japan also gets a lot of
yes,
earthquakes.
Japan and California and all
Mhm.
and Alaska,
Mhm.
just as some plates expand,
Mhm.
some plates subduct. They go
Mhm.
under others in the trenches, like the Mariana Trench, the Puerto Rican Trench.
Mhm. They go under
When
the
they
water.
when they subduct under each other, they pull a lot of the water with them.
Mhm.
So
So
you have two
it caused
plates.
it caused tsunamis.
Well, the
Because
earthquake causes tsunamis, but as
mhm.
the tectonic plate subducts,
Mhm.
water comes with the subduction. And that's
Mhm.
the basic theory why the seas of Mars
Mhm.
disappeared. That there's
Mhm.
tectonic plates on Mars and the water is now underground.
Mhm.
I mean, NASA says this. They believe there
Mhm.
was a large amount of water and much of it now is underground. Well, more water is underground than the rivers overground. We have more underground movement of water
Water.
than we do above the ground. That's not my
Mhm.
idea. That's
Mhm.
considered to be geologic information.
Mhm.
So what is this with the oceans? The oceans are relatively recent. The
Mhm.
land masses, particularly Australia, are about
Mhm.
5 billion years old. The
Mhm.
oldest sections of the oceans, they do cores. They set down
Mhm.
drills and pull up the cores, and they have different ways with radioactivity of estimating the age.
Mhm.
The oldest sections of the oceans are about 250 million years. Most of it
Mhm.
is about 150 million years, and some of it
Mhm.
is only about 70 million years.
Mhm.
So the oceans are relatively recent in the Earth's history.
And
Before that,
I was also reading about that some of the oldest rocks found on Earth, on the crust of Earth, they are around about 2.8 or 3 billion years old. On the other hand, the rocks found at the bottom of ocean, they are around about 70 million years old. So, and as you are saying, to some extent, it is right.
yeah, the issue here is when you go to a museum and you see old fossils of fish,
Mm-hmm,
they weren't found in the ocean. Those
mm-hmm,
big fish you see during the dinosaur era, like the
mm-hmm,
mega sharks, they're found in Montana, Mongolia, even in the
mm-hmm,
Himalayas.
mm-hmm,
They're not found in the ocean because
mm-hmm.
the ocean is relatively recent.
Mhm,
We used to have inland seas. So
mhm,
this is even the Dead Sea by Israel.
mhm,
The Dead Sea is a sea that collapsed, that evaporated, and now all the salt is in one place. And that's the
mhm,
same with Salt Lake City in the western part of the United States. It used to be a big ocean, a big sea, and then it evaporated. And then you have Salt Lake, which is a lake with a tremendous amount of salt in it because the
mhm,
larger sea evaporated. So
mhm,
basically, most of our fossils are from inland seas. The oceans are relatively recent.
mhm.
So, how
It's
does this
interesting.
mechanism work? Well,
Mhm,
we're taught that space is empty. It's not
mhm,
empty.
mhm,
There's comets, there's planets, there's moons,
mhm.
and we even have another moon in our solar system called Europa. It's covered with water, it's covered with ice.
Hmm. And we don't see it.
Yeah, and we have what's called the Cooper or Keeper. I'm not sure of the pronunciation belt where the comets are, and those comets are supposedly um, composed of water. So we can see a big comet, but you
Mhm,
can't see the tiny little bunches of water.
mhm,
So why does the Earth have water and not Mars or the Moon?
mhm.
Now I have a theory. This is
It's a
my
very,
theory.
it's a very interesting question that why does Earth has so much water? On the other hand, other planets don't have it. Okay, I'm gonna say it's the mainstream thing that we are on the narrow belt. If we get closer to the sun, then we are going to burn. The Earth is going to uh, burn, and if we go further, then it's going to freeze to death. So we are at a very narrow belt of life. It's a mainstream
It's a
ideology, and
mainstream
it is.
theory, but we
Mm,
know in Antarctica there's frozen lakes with water buried deep down that
mhm,
have life in it, that have been covered by ice for
mhm,
millions of years. And the same may
mhm,
be true of Europa around
mhm,
Jupiter.
mhm,
The life may be underground or under the water. So why does the
mhm,
Earth have water and not Venus or not the moon? It's a very
mhm,
interesting thing. It's not to do with the temperature. It has to
mhm,
do with the magnetic field. The Earth
mhm,
has a strong magnetic field, and given the interaction between the Earth's magnetic field and the sun's magnetic field, water may be attracted to the Earth's north pole. It's not attracted
mhm,
to the south. It's not
mhm.
much snow in Antarctica. There is a lot of snow, a
In the
lot of
North Pole.
precipitation in the North Pole.
Mhm,
And that may have to do with the Earth's magnetic field. Mars
mhm,
lost its magnetic field, and as a
mhm,
result of that, it lost its supply of water.
mhm,
So it became a dead planet because as the tectonic plates subducted, the water got pulled underground in Mars. So the water gets pulled underground in the Earth, and rocks are made from it, volcanic activity. A large part of volcanic activity is there's two causes. Most people
mhm,
don't know. You can go to geology and read this. The
mhm,
one cause is supposedly radioactive elements heat.
mhm.
And well, there's actually three causes. I should go over three. One
Okay.
is the heating of radioactive elements. The
Mhm,
second is the friction of tectonic plate movement.
mhm,
And the third is steam, which is you have
mhm,
all this heat buildup either from natural radioactivity or from tectonic plate movement. And then when the water table reaches the lava or the um, magma, so if it's underground, it's magma. If it's on top of the ground, it's lava. When
mhm.
the water table hits the magma that's rising between
Mhm.
the tectonic plates, then you
The
have
steam.
steam and an explosion. which causes a
mhm,
volcano. So
mhm,
we have a lot of activity right now on on the Earth. New Zealand has had three major earthquakes, and Iceland has had 18,000 earthquakes in a week.
mhm.
And
18,000 in one week.
18,000, yes.
Mhm,
And they're expecting a volcanic eruption in Iceland. That's, the geologists are predicting an eruption there. But the
mhm,
point of it is what may cause the eruption, you have this hot magma about 2000 degrees centigrade or something like that. And
mhm,
the water hits it. When the water hits it, steam is extremely explosive. It
mhm,
expands very quickly. Then you can have a volcano.
mhm.
And other planets have volcanoes. They even have more volcanoes than
Then
the
we.
Earth.
Mhm,
So they may have water underground too. If water or steam is the major cause of a volcano, that means a lot of planets that have volcanoes also have water, which is water is pretty common in the universe.
mhm.
We're told, like, oh, you only find water on Earth. When I
On
was a
Earth.
kid, we were taught that water is only on Earth. It's not true.
Mhm, mhm,
So we have to review our thinking. Now, if the Earth is absorbing water and the water is getting pulled underground and the oceans are relatively recent, it
mhm,
means the Earth is growing.
mhm,
And even measurements by geologists today, I sent you the links.
mhm,
Geologists today admit it's growing about zero point 0.2 to maybe 1 millimeter in diameter a year or
mhm,
circumference. I forget which one.
mhm,
But it is
mhm,
recognized the Earth is growing. So the only
mhm.
question is how fast
And
how
now,
fast is the Earth growing?
on the other hand, the mainstream, the media industry, the mainstream information industry, and mainstream knowledge and scientists, they say that the Earth is expanding is because of the glaciers and melting of glaciers and rising sea level. But it is completely different that the Earth is growing. If we look at it, because the only reason we can see it and we can observe it is because our time here on Earth is very small, is very limited. On the other hand, the Earth is so vast, is so big, it's difficult for us to comprehend the magnitude of change. And even in the Earth, we can measure it, we can do it. If we compare it with the
We can
universe,
measure it by satellites. We can
yes.
triangulate it by
Mhm,
satellites. Triangulated means you have two positions, and then
mhm,
by the angle of those two positions, you on a specific location, you
mhm,
can compare it to other locations in the expansion rate. And that requires not real advanced math, but it requires satellites and other things. And we do
on
know
Earth.
the Earth is growing. So the
Mhm.
question is, how fast?
How fast?
And I'm going to give you an example why mainstream media
Mhm,
doesn't explain this. You can read in the papers in California, New Jersey, that's in the
mhm,
United States, in Russia, Siberia, that
mhm,
these big elephants called mammoths or mastodons are found
mhm,
frozen in the ice.
mhm,
Supposedly during the Ice Age, these glaciers expanded and then the animals were frozen and they chip away the ice and the snow and they're able to put a full hairy mammoth, a big elephant, into a museum that was
mhm,
preserved by the ice.
mhm,
That's not my opinion. That's the Ice Age, correct?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, do we
Now,
still have it? Do we still have them?
yes, you can do
Uh,
a search on mammoths and ice, Siberia, and you're going to find pictures of elephants, which are big, hairy elephants that were
mhm,
found preserved in the ice. There's a
mhm,
problem with that.
mhm,
A glacier only moves a foot an hour,
mhm,
maybe 2 feet an hour. Why did that mammoth stand there for days and get
mhm,
buried in the ice? Why didn't he
mhm,
just walk away?
mhm,
Glaciers don't move fast. They move like two,
mhm,
10 feet an hour. That elephant could walk away from the glacier. So how did he get buried in ice?
mhm,
That makes no sense. So what I think, and some people think, it was initially a flood of water, like in Noah's
mhm,
Ark
mhm,
or in the Gilgamesh. If you're
mhm,
Persian, there's the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the Great Flood. And why would a
mhm,
great flood happen if the Earth and the solar system entered an area of space that had a lot of water? If
mhm,
there's water in outer space like clouds, think of water in outer space like clouds. And if the Earth runs into one of these clouds, there's going to be a flood.
mhm,
And what's the cloud going to do? It's going to block the sun. So first you have the flood that drowns the hairy mammoth, the saber-toothed tiger,
mhm,
the giant sloth. You have these huge animals, these big elephants and mammals buried in water, drowning. And then the big cloud over the earth blocks the sun and then it freezes. That makes sense, which is the animals were killed with a flood and then the flood became frozen because the water was from outer space. The earth ran
mhm,
into a big cloud in outer space. And you're not allowed to think that way, even though it
mhm,
makes sense. Doesn't that make, I mean, I'm not saying it's true.
mhm,
What I'm saying is this is something, it's a good guess. It's actually the better guess. I don't believe that elephant stood there for 2 years while the glacier buried him. I don't believe that
mhm,
Mastodon was buried by a glacier. It doesn't make
mhm,
any sense to me. Okay, now you ready for the real challenge of the narrative? We're
mhm,
told officially about 70 million years ago, the dinosaurs went extinct.
mhm,
It's not true. It's a lie. A crocodile, an alligator,
mhm,
Komodo dragon, these are dinosaurs. What is true is the giants went extinct.
mhm,
Small reptiles, the small dinosaurs, like alligators and lizards and
mhm,
snakes, they survived.
mhm. They
But
were
it's not
small.
only the smaller
Mhm.
reptiles, it's the
Or they
smaller
evolved,
birds, it's the
or they
smaller,
evolved with time, or they evolved over time.
yeah, the smaller mammals survived. The bigger mammals, like
Mhm,
the mastodons, the giant sloths, even the
mhm,
bigger mammals went extinct.
mhm,
So it wasn't the end of dinosaurs, it was the
mhm.
end of giants.
Giants,
Now,
giants,
why would
mammals.
giants go extinct? They would go extinct because the earth got bigger
Mhm,
and the gravity got stronger and they could barely move. An
mhm,
elephant has a hard time moving. So imagine a mammoth that's 2 or 3 times the size of an elephant. It couldn't move anymore because the earth was growing bigger and the gravity was getting stronger.
mhm,
But where would you find the giants? You would find it in the ocean because the ocean, given the flotation of the water, the density of the water, has reduces the
and
effect of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest animal that ever lived is what?
Is dinosaurs?
No,
Is
the
a
blue
guess.
whale. The blue whale
Mm-hmm.
is still
Mm-hmm.
alive. The other big
Mm-hmm.
animals went extinct because they were on land. The blue whale, which is the biggest animal to ever live, is still living because it's in water and gravity has less effect because of the buoyancy of water. Gravity has less effect on a big whale than it
Mm-hmm.
does the elephant. So the big
Mm-hmm.
elephants went extinct, but the big whales kept getting bigger and bigger because they
Mm-hmm.
were not as much affected by the stronger
The graph.
gravity of a
Mm-hmm.
bigger Earth. So that changes the narrative. And why they don't want it to change, the people in power do not want people questioning science. They want to
Mm-hmm.
claim that science is the absolute truth and nothing has changed. Science has become a religion.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Just
disagree
like.
with science,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposedly ignorant, even though there's other theories like a growing
Mm-hmm.
earth that may make more sense
Mm-hmm.
than what we are taught. They have some tea. I just had dinner. I made myself some tea.
Oh, no problem. Have it.
Uh, yeah, in the winter, I am not as
Mm-hmm.
thirsty. I have to force myself to drink, so I make tea to increase my liquids, and I can feel the
Mm-hmm.
difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that even in my grandchildren. You got to encourage people to drink, otherwise
Mm-hmm.
they dry out. But water is a major part of our biology,
Yes.
and we only think of water in terms of the Earth. We don't think it in terms of space.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you think the water on Earth came from? It came
Mm-hmm.
from space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it just appeared on Earth and didn't appear on Venus?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't appear on the moon? And why do we have water on Earth? Because of the Earth's interaction with its magnetic field and the solar magnetic field. Because water becomes electrical, like
Mm-hmm.
thunderstorm. Even
Mm-hmm.
blizzards can have lightning and thunder, snow. So water
Mm-hmm.
develops electrical characteristics even in space. And those electrical characteristics are affected by the Earth's magnetic field. But once we get to this point, we realize it wasn't the end of the age of dinosaurs, it was the end of the age of
Of
giants,
giants.
not just
Giants mammal.
reptiles,
Mm-hmm.
but,
Giants
but
mammal.
mammals. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but not the end of the age of giant whales because they were not as much affected by gravity because of the buoyancy of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really interesting.
It is interesting, and I like this theory.
I don't know if I'm going to go much longer. I think 30
Mhm.
minutes is enough to present all
Yes,
the information.
yes, okay.
Because
But we
history
have,
is big.
yes,
You don't
there's
have
so
that
much.
much.
Yes, okay, you should go.
Okay,
You
we
should.
don't have that much information because the
Mhm.
information has been censored.
Mhm.
Science is
And
now the new religion. And as the
yeah,
new
as
religion,
you.
we can't
Mhm.
question it. We're not
Mhm.
supposed to see different theories about the nature of water, the nature of the earth,
Mhm.
what is life, how does it arise. We're not
Mhm.
supposed to look at different theories. We're just supposed to repeat. That's called
Mhm.
authoritarianism,
Mhm.
where the authoritarians are the experts in authority. And if you're an expert and you disagree,
Mhm.
you're thrown out of the profession. So
Mhm.
today it isn't religion controlling people's minds,
It's a
it's science.
science. Mhm.
And they don't let
Science
these
and
other ideas
technology.
out. Yeah, they don't let the other ideas out to the public. So the
Mhm.
globalization, and I'm going to tie this in to our globalization series is
Okay.
to use science as the new religion with one narrative or one theory and to
Mhm.
discredit any other type of thinking. You're not allowed to disagree with the experts. And even if
Mhm.
you're an expert and you disagree, you may
They will
find
discredit
yourself without a job.
you. Mhm.
So this is somewhat related to our series on globalization, which is the
Mhm.
control of information
Mhm.
for
And to some extent, it is also related to one of the macro environmental factors that there are five macro environmental factors: political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental.
yeah.
And it falls in the category of environmental issues. And we are learning and about our environment, about the earth in which we are living in today. And as you are right, science has become a new religion. You have to conform with the mainstream technology, with the mainstream industry. If you disagree with them, they will discredit you and discredit your credibility, and you're gonna find yourself unemployed. And I'm still learning about this topic. And thank you so much, Ed, for coming up with this topic and for sending me the links. And there's so much. It's a completely different to my field of expertise, but it triggered my interest, and I hope yours as well.
Okay, could
And
you
thank
put
you,
those
guys.
links? Could you post those links so other people can read the references?
Okay, I'm gonna add it in the description, so they will be tied with the video permanently.
Good. And
Okay.
thank you. I think it's important for people to be encouraged to think in different ways and see
Mm-hmm.
different descriptions. And I think we were able to present and others. I mean, these are not my ideas. When I
Mm-hmm.
was reading history and I gave you some of the interpretations, they were my
Mm-hmm.
interpretation. But
Mm-hmm.
this is just from my study. I've
Mm-hmm.
studied it. I study science, and I've
Mm-hmm.
learned that a good deal of information is censored in science.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
And
I'll see everybody.
thank you, guys. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comment box below. I'll answer it, and we'll get back to you as soon as I can. And thank you, and have a good day, good night, wherever you are. Love.
Oh, bye.